welcome back to another episode of Bridge in the Gap. My name is Jasmine.
I'm Bridget. And I'm Jaleesa.
And on today's episode, we will be talking about home ownership, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So before we jump right on in, we did have a comment from our last video, and it came from Charlene A. And she wanted to share that she also misses when people used to dress up to get on airplanes. If you missed that episode, that was our episode, our best remember when. So, ladies, did you all have any feedback on that?
Yeah, I agree. I miss when people dressed up as well. It used to be a big thing to fly. To now that you see anything on the airplane. So.
Not anything. I definitely want to bring back dressing up to fly. I think I'm gonna dress up the next time we fly.
Yeah.
Mine would have to be like a cute comfortable though.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, they make you take your shoes off and everything now. So it's
right. That's right.
So but no, it's something that just made me think of is now going to the airport is kind of like how it used to be going to Walmart. Like when you would just see anybody dressed any old kind of way. Yeah.
You probably see better fashions at Walmart than you do at the airport.
That part. But we boycotting Walmart, so.
Yeah, it's true. We are.
But okay, to jump into our episode today, I did want to share a fact, and I have 5 of them, but I'm just going to start off with 2 for now and, just pass it around to you ladies. So I wanted to start off by saying in 2023, the housing market, first-time buyers constituted 26% of all home buyers with a median age of 35 and a median household income of $95,900.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's up there. And then 24% of the first-time buyers, which I found really, really interesting, were single women, whereas 11% were single men.
Wow. Okay.
So almost double. Actually, that is double.
Yeah.
Double of what single men are doing when it comes to buying homes. And Jaleesa, did you have an interesting fact or?
Yeah. So I had some too. So the home ownership rate has historically fluctuated, reaching a peak of around 69% in 2004, before the 2007-2009 recession. And then the typical homeowner stays in their house for 13.2 years, which I found really interesting.
That is interesting.
And
it is.
And then did you have any other facts or statistics to present?
Something I wanted to bounce off of you really quickly that you mentioned was that most home buyers stay in for about 13.7 years, you said?
Oh, wow. Yeah, 13.2 is what I was.
13.2. Okay, so most first-time buyers usually keep their first starter home for only 2 to 5 years.
Wow.
And then the typical down payment for a first-time home buyer in 2023 was 8%. It's the highest it has been since 1997.
Wow.
And then I got just one last one.
Yeah.
Bounce off of that one.
No. Oh, okay. So in addition to what you said, so I found the home ownership rate among young adults under 35 has declined from 45% in 1990 to 39% as of 2022. And then when it comes to racial disparities, when it comes home ownership, the difference between Black and white home ownership rates is substantial, with a gap of around 30 percentage points. And lastly, in 2022, the Black home ownership rate was approximately 44.9%, slightly higher than that. Slightly higher than at the end of 2019, but still significantly lower than the white home ownership rates.
And like the last one that I found, is along the lines of that trend. So it actually is still declining because 83% of recent home buyers identified their ethnicity as white or Caucasian, 7% as Black or African American, 6% as Hispanic or Latino, 4% as Asian or Pacific Islander, and 3% as some other ethnicity.
Oh, that
Which
makes
is a
sad. That's a
huge
huge
gap.
disparity.
Yeah, it is. And so I think some of the factors that go along with that is historically, I want to say for Caucasian people, a lot of times they have generational wealth. And many times, like for wedding presents, their parents will gift them with down payments for a house, or either after the wedding, they will go and stay with the parents maybe a year or two and save money, giving them time to save for a substantial down payment on a home, versus in many African American households, sadly, they are ran by single parents. And so historically, we have not had the same economic advantages as our Caucasian counterparts. So that is one of the reasons why home ownership is far less in our communities.
And to piggyback off that, that's one way that they say is the best way to build generational wealth is through real estate and home ownership. And unfortunately, we see that, there are a multitude of reasons why we are not afforded the opportunities to purchase homes at the same rates as our white counterparts. And Jasmine, I feel like you were gonna say something based off what we're talking about as well.
Yeah, no, like when I read that statistic, like I felt it because it's like I haven't been able to experience purchasing a home, and I don't know when exactly I will have the opportunity to purchase a home. So like to see that our white counterparts, Caucasian counterparts, however they want to identify, where they seem to be thriving in that area, whereas we're not even in the double digits. Like no other ethnicity is in the double digits. Like they're at 83%, and we were the second highest at literally 8%.
Which is crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
Crazy.
And then too, it was something else that you said that was kind of mind blowing with that, with the percentages, because I was listening to what you were saying, even with all of the other percentages combined, we don't even make up half of what it is, they're doing as far as purchasing homes. And I'm sad to say, I kind of feel like it's going to get worse, especially with programs being cut for, people to the playing field to somewhat be leveled. Though we're seeing a lot of those programs go away, and I feel like the playing field was never really leveled, but now it really, I'm sad to see what those numbers are going to look like 2 to 3 years from now.
Another sad fact that we're now starting to see is that you have more corporations purchasing up homes that typically young families would have been able to purchase. Now corporations are snatching them up literally by the neighborhoods. I think that's another driver of prices, home prices as well, is because of the corporations came in and started outbidding and artificially propping up the markets, and driving a lot of consumers, home buyers out of the market. typically where they would have been able to afford even a little starter house. Now they can't. So I guess with that, I'd like to get into some of the pros.
Yeah, I was that yeah, because well before you get started, why don't you share with our viewers a little bit, because you have been blessed to be a homeowner several times, and I want you to kind of touch on that, and then go into your pros, and then I have questions. I'm sure Jasmine probably has some questions for you as a homeowner.
Keeping in line with what Jaleesa said, I have been blessed to purchase a house several times. Most recently, I actually had a house built 3 years ago. I was one of the ones that happened to be in that special place where we were coming out of COVID. Everything was really, really cheaper at the time. Interest rates were historically low. So I was able to lock in like a 3.3 interest rate and have a house built from the ground up, which was, I cannot tell you how exciting that was. But I actually was able to purchase my first home at the age of 24, newly married. And actually, I put the down payment on a credit card, which was crazy when I think about it, believe it or not. But just to show you how times have changed, it was a starter house. It was 2 bedroom, 1 bath. It was definitely a fixer-upper. We only paid $21,000 for the house. And so I have been blessed in that aspect.
I will say that was a really nice starter house.
It was.
Fixer upper, because I remember like the porch, how big that porch was, and how it kind of sat up on the hill a little bit.
It did.
Like, no, that was actually a really
it was a really nice house. The only thing that was messed up was kind of like the garage. But other than that,
but I feel like that was a testament to the home that was provided to us, because I didn't even recall that house being a fixer-upper. Like,
y'all never saw it, because when we went in there, when we went in there, like, I don't know if you remember the dining room area, but we had painted the house like blue and white on the inside. So when we first looked at the house, when we went into that dining room area, it was actually like yellow and brown, and it was linoleum on the floor. And when I say we went in there and dug, like literally scraped up the floor, we put down new linoleum. We painted it blue and white.
I'm like, where were we doing all of this?
Well, we went Rose and I'm still.
Yeah, y'all had been Rose while we did it, but yeah, we painted that house. We did a lot. The only thing that we did not do, we didn't do a whole lot with the kitchen, and definitely didn't do anything with that basement, because I was scared to go in the basement. I had a nightmare about that house not too long ago, the basement. And then after that, we stayed in that house maybe like 4 years. Then I got pregnant with Cedric. And then that's when we moved to the house over on Sloan Street, which it was a really nice, that house was very nice. It was roomy too. Yeah. So it was 4 bedrooms and 1 bath, and that basement was nice. Yes. So that was a really nice house.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell on Jaleesa and I real quick, but we used to pour laundry detergent all over the floor and go ice skate.
Yes. Y'all, I thought it, and you just said it, but yes, I love that basement. And we used to put the little laundry detergent and water, and oh my God, you could not tell me not ice skating in that basement. But that basement floor was always clean.
It was clean. That was a nice house. I think they tore that house down. That was a really nice house. Yeah. It really was. The garage and everything, the backyard was fenced in.
Oh, I love that.
It was a nice house. It really was. I wish that's the one house that I wish I could have kept to have rented out or something like that, because it was really nice. And then I was able to, next house, I was able to buy a house in townhouse in Virginia Beach. That was our next house, and that was 4 bedrooms and 2 baths. And we could have put more work into that. Different circumstances, but it was a nice house nevertheless.
So you've owned 4 homes.
This is my 4th house that I've owned,
which I think is a blessing.
It is. It's a huge blessing. It's a huge blessing, and I guess that'll lead me to some of the pros.
Yes, what are the pros
of home ownership? So, one of the biggest pros to me is stability. You have your place is yours as long as you make that house known every month. You don't have to worry about somebody coming in telling you they're selling the house or whatever reason they're putting you out the house. So it's yours. You can decorate it as you choose. You can paint it. You can do whatever you want to with it, unless of course you happen to be like me. Here in Florida, I am in a HOA community, but I did that for several reasons. If anybody knows anything about neighborhoods in Florida, especially ones where there are no homeownership, HOAs, you may see a Pepta pink house. You may see a god awful purple, just whatever, cars in the yard, junkyard, this, that, and the other. In an HOA, everything usually is pristine. We had to pick out the color of the house beforehand. So if I wanted to change my house a different color, probably slim to none. I'm stuck with the color I have on the outside. But on the other hand, I don't have to worry about slightly looking yards, because we definitely have to keep up the yards and everything. So that's a plus. Second, I would say tax purposes, especially back in the day, not so much now, but you used to get a nice little tax savings for owning a home. So that was a plus of home ownership. Trying to think of another plus of owning a home. Let me see.
Like a plus would be like it's not as expensive. As all of like the fees they throw in sometimes.
Yeah, it's not as expensive, and you build equity. So every time, going back to I think I said I had like a 3.3% interest rate, and so I purchased my home going on 4 years ago, and I think I had put probably, I've paid maybe $40,000 into the price of the home already, and not to mention I have nice equity in the house. Equity is good for if you decide, like if I wanted to sell, and equity is like over whatever I owe on a house, I have that much in equity, which would translate to a profit in the house, and that's good. So
I was really, really excited when you told us that you were having a house built, and something that I am so happy that we got a chance to experience as a family is when you had us come in and write the scriptures on the beams and hopes and wishes for the home. And that, to this day, when it comes to everything that we've done, with houses or what have you, even though I had some favorite childhood homes, I felt like that was so special.
Yeah.
And I was honored. I feel like that was such an honor. And I think the kids, like, they even, scribbled something on the beams or whatever, like something part of it. But I just feel like that just, I don't know, it's just so like such a loving gesture. I felt like.
And I feel like that's another pro is what all went into the house.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely a pro. When it was being constructed, I had the opportunity to come out. I would try to get out here like twice a week to see the progress that was being made on the home, and looking at it, the care that they put into it, with the writing the scriptures on the beam. I always wanted the house to feel. I always wanted it to be a home. I had envisioned that, like one day when I wasn't here, it could be like a family home or whatever, because it is in Florida. And right now, the area that we're in it's a beautiful area. It's close to beaches. So, I had always envisioned that, but more so, I wanted to always feel protected in this home. Anybody that came in, I wanted them to feel welcome and special, protected, and all of that good stuff. So that's definitely was a plus that I had a chance to see the construction process.
And what would you say are the downsides of home ownership?
So the downsides of home ownership is typically when you buy a house, there are several ways you can do it. You can go conventional. And a conventional mortgage does not have what they call PMI, which is private mortgage insurance, which is basically an insurance that the government puts on a house. Should you go into foreclosure, it basically protects the lien holder to make sure that they get their money back, because is guaranteed by the government. So you can have a FHA or you can have a VA, which is you have to be prior military to have a VA. But FHA, which has the private mortgage insurance. So that's a set rate that'll never change, and it's with the life of the loan. And typically a mortgage is 30 years. So then you have your homeowner's insurance, and you also have your taxes. Taxes and insurance is rolled into your mortgage payment every month. So the downside is if your homeowner's insurance goes up, so does your mortgage payment. Same thing with your same thing with your taxes. Taxes can range anywhere. Here right now, our taxes are like $4,000 a year, which I think that equates to something like about $690 a month. So in addition to the principal, which is your mortgage payment without anything else, that's your principal. Okay, so the downside, as I said before, is when your insurance and your your insurance and your taxes go up, and it causes your house payments to go up. And I was kind of surprised because here recently, I guess there was like a TikTok thing going around, and some people purchased homes over the last couple of years, and due to their taxes and insurance, especially on new builds, I saw one young man, his house payment went from like $1,800 to almost $4,000 a month. So he was gonna have to sell. And the reason why is because he had his home built as well. And instead of his loan officer or his real estate agent explaining to him that the taxes on an empty lot far far lower than the taxes on the structure once it's built. And so maybe the plot of land was $30,000 and maybe the taxes on that was like $100 a year. Now you go build a $350,000 house, and not only is the land tax, but now the structure is taxed. So now you're talking about $5,000 in taxes. So you can see how somebody's house payment could jump up, because the first year of home ownership, you're paying for that empty lot.
Right.
And then the next year is when the land and the structure is put on.
See, I would be so upset, because how do you even know what questions to ask to avoid something like that?
A lot of people don't, unless you've ever been through this process before, or if you've looked into it beforehand, you would know. But a lot of times, sadly, they don't tell you, and this is what happens. So, you know, I would be upset too. I can't imagine. Now it's normal for it to fluctuate a little bit. Like, for example, for my homeowners, and another thing too, going back to that, they really are supposed to ballpark what they think it will be to let you know, okay, now your house payment is $900, but based on the taxes and insurance, next year you can look to pay $1,200 or $1,300. So they really should, but they aren't doing that like they're supposed to. And then, like you said, if you don't know, you don't know the right questions to ask.
And then I feel like you can't go to your, mortgage company. Well, I didn't know, I don't. That comes across kind of predatory.
It's very predatory. It's very predatory. And it's sadly, now I'm sure it happens to other minorities, but I see it more, or I'm sorry, other races, but I see it more in the Black community. It's very predatory behavior.
Yeah.
So would it be better to just buy a house that's already built?
Yeah, and if you want to avoid that, that's one way to buy a house that's already built. But a prime example, here in Florida, we are facing a crisis because of historically how the insurance companies have really ran the state, instead of the other way around, the state telling the insurance companies what they can and cannot do. So now we have a crisis here where homeowners insurance, and because of all the storms that we've had, homeowners insurance is now pricing people out. You have people who outright own their homes, have been in their homes for 30 and 40 years and own their homes outright. And some of those people have to go without insurance because they cannot afford the insurance. So it's like paying for this house all over again. And then you have a lot of people who are on fixed incomes and elderly, and so they are now having to forego having homeowners insurance, and they call it self-insured, where basically if you face some type of catastrophic occurrence with your house, pretty much you are responsible for the rebuild of the house.
Yeah, I feel like that's playing Russian roulette.
It definitely is.
It's kind of scary. It makes you like a little nervous to even want to buy a home.
Right. Well,
in Florida.
Here
in Florida, definitely. But other parts of the country, you don't see that fluctuation as much. Prime example, Michigan. Every now and then, Michigan will have like a tornado come through or something like that. But historically, their property taxes and insurance has pretty much stayed the same. So you can look towards, forward to having, you know, if your house note is $1,200, maybe it might go up 100 or something like that, but it's still in the same ballpark.
That's a lot more stable.
Yeah. And same thing with California. California is a state where the properties are, the cost of home ownership is very unstable due to the wildfires. And we just saw that recently with the fires that occurred in the Palisades and everything. And the sad part about it is there were a few all Black communities where these people had been in those houses for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, generational houses. And because of the high cost in California, a house that was purchased maybe in the 70s for like $40,000 and paid off, in order to build that same house today, will cost in the millions of dollars.
Wow.
So you have whole generations and communities of people who had generational wealth
in homes.
Have lost that.
Wow.
And are losing the land because they cannot afford to rebuild. And insurance, from what I understand, is not really giving them the full amount that they should as well.
Something else that I thought I was kind of sad with that situation was they were saying that that even though that their house is completely gone, some of them still have to make payments. Like,
what?
They have to make their house payments even though the house is completely gone.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Which I thought was so messed up.
Yes. And then only that, I couldn't even, I feel like you are financially strapped after a tragedy like that. I cannot even imagine rebuilding your life and still paying a mortgage for a home you cannot
that even, you can't even, that no longer
exist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, you just put me up on something because I had not heard that. I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't either until I saw that. I was like, oh, I could not imagine.
I saw on, I think it was on MSNBC, they profiled a family, and it was really sad too because this couple was having a hard time even trying to find somewhere to rent because of all of the people, because literally you had hundreds and hundreds of homes literally wiped off the map. And so now you have all of these people looking to rent somewhere else until their home could be rebuilt. And they were having the hardest time even trying to find somewhere to rent, somewhere that was affordable to rent. Because I want to say the cheapest place she found was a 2-bedroom rental for like $5,000. And she was like, it's no way that they could afford that. It was her husband, and her little boy. And so it's a very sad situation. Like I said, home ownership definitely comes with pros. That's the ugly.
Yeah,
in the home ownership
is ugly.
Yeah, you have to pay. And like you said, I can't imagine either having to pay on something that no longer exists.
Yeah, like where is the? I cannot. When after we wrap tonight, Shaw, I'm actually going to. Like I said, I want to read up some more on that because I want to like what's the reasoning behind that? Where is the money going? You know. That's crazy. I feel like
in a perfect
something new.
In a perfect world, insurance would have come in and, of course, deemed the property a complete loss, and based on what the property is worth, would have paid that off and given the money to the lien holder. In some cases, because of same thing that's going on here in Florida, because of the insurance, it costs so much to insure some of their homes. Some of the people chose to go without homeowners insurance. And so again, these people are totally wiped out. They don't have a home to go back to. They don't even have anything to rebuild.
That is so sad.
A complete loss.
Well, I did have a question for you. So, what advice would you give somebody who was purchasing a home today? If you had a chance to sit down and talk with somebody, they were like, Bridget, what would you tell me about me buying this house right now? What would you say?
First of all, I would say to really, really, really look at the market and see if now is a good time to purchase a home.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the mortgage rates, what mortgages are going for. Right now, I want to say last time I looked at it, we were in the 7%, 8%, which is high compared to when I bought, but it has not. That's not even the highest it has been. When I purchased the townhouse, the interest rate was 11%, which was huge. But I would say look at your interest rate. Number two, make sure that you have the highest credit score that you could possibly have, because again, that's the difference in paying 7% and 5%. So you want to definitely have good credit. The next thing I would think about where you want to buy. Like I said, I wouldn't advise anybody to purchase here. There are some parts of Florida that's better than others. I wouldn't advise anybody to buy anything along either coast, just because for obvious reasons. But also, I would say you don't want to be house poor either.
Right.
Get your money saved up for a nice down payment on a house, because that's really good. It can help your interest rate. Definitely, it will lower your mortgage payment the more money that you put down on the house. And those are the things I would say. Oh, when it comes down to the house itself, I would say pay money to have an inspector come in, because that's another thing. You don't want to purchase a house that people are having issues with the house, which is why they're getting rid of it. Prime example is somebody in my neighborhood moved a couple of weeks ago, and before she moved out of the house, she shared with me that they thought it was a leak. A water leak in the house somewhere, based on how high their water bill was every month. And I'm sure she did not pass that on to the new homeowners.
That paid full ass, by the way.
Paid full ass for the house, and neither shall I. It's not my business.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's another thing you definitely want to do. You definitely want to have the house inspected to make sure that it's really worth, you're really paying, it's worth what you're paying for. So
that's really good advice. And then Jasmine, do you have any questions?
I did. So like for your first home, Prospect Street, I know you said you paid that with your credit card. If you had to do it all over again, would you make that same decision?
You know what? I think I would. Let me tell you. On the back end is where I would do something different. I never thought about keeping my houses to rent after I decided to move on. That's the one thing I wish I would have done. I wish I would have become a landlord for several reasons, because having property is a good thing, especially when the property is paid off. And at that rate, that house could have easily been paid off. And, I got rental money for a little while before the neighborhood, went down. Same thing with the second house that we moved out of. But, due to circumstances beyond my control, and life happens and divorce happens, so I wasn't able to do any of that. But that's the one regret that I do have, was not holding on to my properties.
You did good choosing the house.
Yeah. I tried. You know what? I didn't have a lot of work to work with, But in the end, I wanted to make sure that you all, had somewhere to call home and that we wasn't moving around, every couple of months, place to place and all of that.
And I feel like every place we moved into was an upgrade. I never felt like, well, why did mama move us here? And then even when we transitioned from a home to our apartments, well, we leveled up the area. Yes. And that was a highly desirable area. I remember we were in the best of the best schools in the area. We had laptops and computers, and I really, really felt like, and it's funny too, because we moved around a lot. That's one thing I will say. We constantly moved around, but and growing up, it kind of like, it would be times I was like, oh, I'm sad we are moving, but then I look forward to the new experiences. I am so glad that we did move around, at least for personally speaking for me, because I feel like it made it easier to be okay moving around as adults. Like I don't have a problem moving out. Like, okay, look, my family's gonna be there. I'm going. And I think
now you go.
No, I was gonna say, I think it's good. In that, I know people say that you should plant roots places, and I believe that was true once upon a time. But in the world that we live in now, we truly are in a global community. I think it's okay to pick up and move every few years if that's what you want to do. As far as kids having stability, I feel like that you can provide stability, for your children in the midst of moving. If you would have asked me this like 20 some years ago, I probably would have thought differently about it. But looking at it now, like, I'm thinking, if I had the opportunity back then, that possibly today, I would have moved internationally with y'all.
And I
would have to give y'all that worldly experience. Yeah, I would have picked up and moved out the country with y'all.
And I do want Jasmine to touch on what she was about to say, but I do want to say something about you, Jasmine, because you said something at the beginning of the show when you said that you don't know if you may ever get a chance to experience home ownership, and that's kind of like where Cedric and I are too. But one thing I will say that Mama just said is you can provide stability to kids even with the move. You are the perfect example of that, because I feel like you made some moves since being a mother, but I feel like every place that you've gone, you have made those places a home and a place of stability. And I feel like that's why your kids have thrived the way that they have, because I feel like, and they are so advanced and so, they're grounded. I feel like, so even, I feel like we as millennials, because life has not always been easy for us, I feel like we always have to try to see the brightness and everything. And I kind of want you to take that away. Is like, even though you've not had a chance to experience that, you've made every place home without it, necessarily being yours. And your kids are a testament to that. So I want you to take comfort in that. Because it made me sad when you said that.
No, I was sad. So thank you. That does make me feel a lot better, because I was, I want to be able to I just purchased my first home, get the little big key, little thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Go ahead.
No. Oh, no, you go.
No, I was going to say, don't get me wrong. It's a feeling. I can't even describe what it feels like, especially you know, like I said, I bought before, but then having something built from the ground up and things that I picked out that I liked, the floor, the colors, and all of that. It was a beautiful process. But then at the same time, too, when I think about it, I'm like, okay, hindsight is 2020, and I talked about this with Jaleesa before. Like, if I really would have known what today would have been like, would I really had a planted roots where I planted roots at, versus moving somewhere else and you know, purchasing a house, and you know, so I go back and forth. Don't get me wrong, I feel blessed to be in this position. Another good thing about home ownership, I don't have to ask anybody, can I move somebody in? And if you need a place to stay, I got you. You know what I'm saying? My house is big enough or whatever. And it has come in handy for that reason. And I thank God for that. You know, every time, you know, one of you guys, if you needed something, I'm here. Here we go. You know, we might be on top of each other, but at least we got a roof over our head type deal. And I'm thankful for that. So, you know, but then you know, it's scary times we live in, so I have to take that into consideration too. But I will say this, I know that my house note is far cheaper than what I would be paying if I was renting the same amount of space for somebody. So that's definitely a blessing. But home ownership is not for everybody. And, you know, it's definitely a huge responsibility. Because again, if something goes wrong, I can't pick up the phone and call the landlord. I am the one that's responsible, financially responsible.
And furnaces are not cheap. I learned that the hard way.
Not at all.
Or appliances. I said, or appliances.
Yeah, appliances. I had to get my stove repaired. I had to get my refrigerator repaired because they don't make things like they used to, and both of those were brand new. I had to have some work done in the front sewer, a pipe. I had to have that done. So I've had to pay money. You know, I've had to come out of my pocket, and there was nobody to call. So that's another thing too. I would like to say this. There is something called homeowners. There's an insurance you can get for houses. And it's supposed to be a little cheaper, like you pay every month, like $100 a month on this policy. And then when something breaks, then you have like a $50 copay deductible that you pay, and then they come out and fix it. So that's good to have too.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. So
to take it back just a little bit, what I was going to say earlier is with the move, like the only time I ever was like, oh, I don't want to move, is when we left Michigan. And it was only because, you know, I had a little situation going on at that point. But other than that, I can say I have really enjoyed our moves. And I'm actually, when I look back, I'm very thankful and grateful we did move, because I met so many different people, and I feel like I'm a lot more well-rounded because
that's what I was gonna say. The well-rounded part, because people don't realize, but when you live in a certain place and you grow up in that place and stay all your life, you have one way of looking at things because of the people around you typically are the same way. So it's not until you are able to move and get around different people and different environments and see how other people live and think, that's what makes you to me, a better, well-rounded person, human being. You have empathy, and you know, you get a chance. I'm not gonna go off on a soapbox, but I think a lot of what we are seeing politically today is because you have certain type of people who have never been anywhere and don't know any different.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have one way of thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, and Jasmine, now that I think about it, you've lived Midwest, East Coast, the South. She's lived on the West Coast, the deep South. Look, you did Texas and Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you yeah.
The Southwest, because Las Vegas is Southwest.
Oh, I was thinking West Coast.
And Arizona.
Yeah, but it is West Coast too.
Yeah.
But Arizona.
Oh, in Arizona.
Yeah,
I forgot about Arizona too. You definitely don't have a problem.
Hawaii. She done been to Hawaii.
The only place she has not lived is the North, which is like New York. Wait, no,
Michigan is considered the North.
Yep, it is North.
It's Midwest, but it's still North.
Yeah. So
I tend to go to like Montana or Wyoming or something like that, and then I done seen it all. But
now, one thing I will say about Montana is the men outnumber the women. I want to say it's like 3-1, but I'm straight.
I don't know about that.
Right.
One last little tidbit just on the like well-rounded part.
Yes.
One thing I noticed when I did live in Las Vegas is there were so many people who were born and raised in Las Vegas who had never been to California.
Wow.
And Mama, you know how close, because I took you to
very close.
Not the Grand Canyon, the Hoover Dam. I took you to the Hoover Dam. There are so many people in Vegas who hasn't even been to the Hoover Dam. And that is like on the border of Nevada and Arizona. Super.
I would think you would go there for field trips in school.
Yeah.
And you would think they would take the kids.
There were so many people who had never left Las Vegas.
That's crazy to me.
That is so crazy.
You know, we are learning that here in Deltona. The kids happen to have some friends who moved from Deltona, which you know is a rule. They moved to Orange City, and they consider Orange City a big city. So Sarah was like, well, what will Orlando be?
I'm
That's
saying.
a mega city. Like what? And Mama was
don't go to Miami.
Yes,
but you lived in Orange City, so you know.
So when I was like, when she was like, yeah, she's like, you know, we needed a big city. She was like, so I went ahead and we moved to Orange City. I'm like, you sneeze, and you got on one side and out the other in Orange City. When I tell you, I got me away, and then like people rarely go to Orlando. Like Orlando is
we in Orlando every other day.
Yes, but when I tell you Orlando is like a big trip, I'm like, what? And then I had a neighbor tell me the other day, we were talking, and they said that they got some medical advice that they, you know, are unable to fly. And they said that they didn't, you know, the medical professional didn't have to tell them twice because that just did it. They not flying nowhere. Well, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think you were flying anywhere. I don't think you've flown anywhere in the last 5 years, my guy. But okay, but that's the catalyst that, you know, that's the straw that broke the camel's back when
it's crazy. It's crazy.
It is crazy. It's so crazy to me. But yeah, I blew me away. So anyway, yeah, I at this point in time, like I do when I think about owning a home and buying a home, I don't feel like I'm in a position to, but right now I would not want to own a house right now.
I wouldn't even know where I would want to be planted for.
Yeah,
right. That's the part. That is the part. Where would you want to be long term to settle down? That's another thing too. People are so transient.
Yes, and I think too, seeing how just I always had a sense of stability being an American. All of that is lost now. Like everything feels so unstable to me. I don't feel, and most mortgages are for 30 years. I honestly cannot name one place I think I would want to be for the next 30 years. You know, I don't know. I always try to, we do this show to kind of take people's minds off of what's going on around us, and it's kind of hard to stay off of what's going on around us when it affects us in so many ways. But when I tell you, I have to be honest with our viewers. And I know a lot of us feel like this election just changed so many things for me in so many ways. And I cannot say it's for the better necessarily. So,
one little thing, because we have been a little heavy, of course.
Yes.
To lighten things is one verse that Mama has been saying very often lately, and it is, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. So because we have not yet experienced home ownership does not mean we won't ever. Who knows? Later on in life, we might hit it big and we got a mansion. And that's home. Our first, the first home purchase is a mansion.
Absolutely. She came with a word for us tonight.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
Look, I've been even envisioning having own a property overseas.
That part. That's your starter home.
You know what? Y'all and you know what, then y'all talk that talk, and let's go ahead and speak that into existence. I would love that.
Yes.
I would love that.
Properties around the world.
I said that like, I want to be retired. I want to retire my friends and family. I just want to just go set up somewhere that's paradise and live like that every day. So look at Jasmine. Look at Jasmine just bringing us back to nothing but positivity, love, and life.
Yes, that's what we need.
Yeah. Good ladies, that's all I had. Is there any else we would
I didn't have anything else.
But what I will say is, before we get up out of here today, our next show is going to be our natural hair care journeys, because I don't know if you guys know, but all of us are on natural hair journeys. And we will definitely have some tips, tricks, some things that we've learned being natural, why we decided to go natural, all of those fun things on our next show. And if you guys do not have anything else, I'm going to get ready to close us out with the quote from the show. Anybody have anything?
Nope, I'm good.
No. Okay. Well, before I go ahead and share my quote, I want to say thank you so much to any and everybody that has tuned into our show. We thank you so much for being here as always. We hope that you take something and have learned something from today's show on home ownership, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
And my quote comes from Susie Orman, who's a very famous financial advisor, and she says, owning a home is a keystone of wealth, both financial affluence and emotional security.
Yes.
So on that note, once again, you guys have a wonderful night, and we will see you Thursday.
Bye.
Bye.